Gary Freeman, who was the UBIX MVP from Melbourne, in an outstanding performance after having a disagreement with his Balmain club side here in Sydney in the Winfield Cup. He had to play from reserve grade to the test match. Eyeball to eyeball the skippers went. I don't think there was too many pleasantries exchanged.
No, well, you wouldn't expect so. There's too much on the line to ask them how their car polishing's going. So they know they've got to get out there and get stuck into one another. Mel Meninga, he's the old war horse. He's up against two greats of the future. There's two great players now, but Mel's got to pull a special game out of his jumper this time, mate.
Well, Bob Bailey did the job so well for New Zealand, and now he has a chance here in Sydney, the second test against Australia, to win a series now for the first time since 1953. To you all back home in New Zealand, strap yourself in, get set. Mr. Holsworth from England gets us underway. Meninga deep. Nilly dead in goal on the full. Blackmore to bring it back, the young man who performed so well in Melbourne. Now, New Zealand, from even down deep, showed a keenness to keep spreading the ball in Melbourne. I don't think the tactics will be changed, but let's just see about the forward play.
It's already evident, Graham. Australia on the first couple of tackles had a very, very short defensive line there. And to me, that type of play is going to leave them open out wide.
Now Holsworth stood the mark. The Australians will be marched 10. I was going to agree with you. If that penalty didn't come, Gary Freeman was upset because New Zealand had a three-man overlap back out here on the left-hand side.
That's right. Australia's tactics are already evident. They had a very, very short defensive line then, and it was on immediately for New Zealand to take advantage of.
It has been hard for any international team in any code you wish to name to make so many changes and come up with the goods. McCracken finished off over the top. Swinging arm from Gillespie. There is some feeling in this, don't worry. Todd takes it up strongly. Another swinging arm from Gillespie. Back it goes to Freeman. Nicow charging onto it. An electric start to this test match. The pace will be on for no man's language. Now Todd pushed to the sideline. He stays in. Freeman has the whole field opened up. Colodo takes it short. Last tackle against New Zealand. Freeman will chance it with a midfield bomb. Who wants it? Daly stands there. Back it goes to Eddinghausen.
Very good start for New Zealand. 5 good tackles there, and then good pressure from a great kick from Gary.
Meninga gets back there to lift his side. This crowd roaring for both teams. Bella up the middle strongly, taken by Peter Brown.
This is the area here, Graham. The New Zealand first markers have got to pick them off. They can't get caught at the middle like that.
This is the man they went to sleep against in the first 40 minutes in Melbourne, Steve Wallers. He got an Australian try. Now, Clyde to Meninga. Wishart with his first touch in Test football. He gets away. A good short side, blindside passage for Australia. Now they have big numbers out wide. New Zealand on the rack. The ball was forward. Now John Holsworth, the referee, has called it back for a knock-on. He leaps into the fray. But if that had have led to a try, he should come back a pass. The ball was a long way forward. Now, a concern, Bob Bailey. I'm concerned because Holsworth missed a forward pass.
Yeah, and it wasn't even hard to pick up, Graham.
Now it's an Australian put in. Still more pressure. Langer. Jackson. He will be a worry on the fringe of the rucks with his height and good ball skills. Bradley Clyde all fired up. New Zealand will have to answer the call early here. Back to their line. Gillespie up the middle. A lot more aggression and enthusiasm from this Australian pack. Langer takes it to the line. He gets through. Good scrambling play from New Zealand. but still they're in danger. Bella has Meninga outside. They've stretched the Kiwis, but can they hang on for one more tackle? Meninga to the in goal. Boddicker puts it dead. Australia will still have possession. Boddicker, if he had have looked over his shoulder, probably could have allowed that to go dead by itself.
I think there was just a little bit of panic there. Frano could have let that go, but it's best to be safe at this stage of the game. It's already evident, Graham, that the New Zealand markers have been caught out probably 3 or 4 times by not looking which way Australia's going and just rushing off to one side. The first marker must look. He must stand back from the tackle player, look and chase.
Mark Geyer, another Test debutant. He's been a kangaroo, but now he joins the Test scene. Martin Bella. He loses it. It's stolen. Australia get a penalty. John Holsworth said there is no stealing of the ball here. Just being stripped at the last moment there by Dwayne Mann. Now, Meninga comes up for the kick and goal. Well, Huey, so much excitement, so much exciting play already out wide. What a great start to a Test match.
A terrific start, Graham. It's the most fired up I've seen Australia in the 9 years that I was ever playing for New Zealand. I'm glad I'm sitting on here at the sideline. Even though it's a little bit cold, I've got the same type of nerves. But what a tremendous start from Australia. New Zealand putting themselves under pressure. As Graham Lowe says, the mark area is where they've really got to pick up.
Well, now it's an opportunity for Meninga. It was a decision for the Australian coach Bob Fulton during the week whether to go with Meninga or Wishart. With Wishart making his Test debut, they decided to stay with the experienced warrior. From outside the 22, about 13 metres in from the sideline, he puts it away. What a confidence boost for their team, and also Meninga, who hasn't been kicking well.
Yes, that is great confidence for Mel, because he has felt the pressure. I know I had a good talk to him during the State of Origin series, and he was feeling the pressure tremendously from the goal-kicking area, but New Zealand's got to put that behind them now. Stop that silly penalties that they gave away then, and get back, concentrate on that first mark area. I know it's boring, but that's where you win or lose.
So it's 2-0, Langer now. Meninga deep again. An awesome sight to try and stop this man. 3 Kiwis needed for the job. Salvatore, another making his debut. Gillespie, they call him the hitman in the Winfield Cup football. Powerful defender if you stray into his radar zone. Geyer standing wide. The Australians already keen to show a lot more ball movement. Now New Zealand will be penalised again.
I think Bob should get a message out immediately, because as you can see here, the referee's not going to hold. He's not going to tolerate anything at all. Guy just let that ball go, as far as I'm concerned. But I think the Kiwis have got to get a message in a hurry. Just keep away. Just the moment the guy's tackled, let him go.
Well, they've got to settle down. All they're doing, and Bob Bailey knows it, is playing at the wrong end of town. Wishart. To Salvatore. He makes the advantage line easily. A little bit of a hole up the middle. This time it comes free. And a knock on against Australia. So a let off for New Zealand. They need an Australian error, and they get it. Ball lost by Salvatore. No penalty called for at all. Freeman gets it to Dave Watson. Played so well in the centres in the first Test. Now to 5'8" to make allowance for Kevin Iro. Todd hammered head on by Bella. He looks a lot more fired up than in Melbourne. Freeman across the ruck. To Peter Brown, to Lonigan, to McCracken. McCracken, I don't know how he dragged that in. The ball to him was a line ball. They go wide. Watson. Kevin Iro on Meninga. beats him on the inside, but tidied up as Meninga comes again. Last tackle. Blackmore now hears the call. Quickly back to Nickow. That can be a problem now. He gets the kick in well, but that could be a problem, Lowy. No Tony Kemp, who kicked well in Melbourne.
Yeah, but I think Frano Boddicker is the player there. Frano is the best player on the field, and he's the best kicker on the field, and he should be the one in there controlling the kicks. He didn't kick much at all in the first test. He's got to do it this time.
Wishart off his wing to the 22. Taking over is Jackson. You see, Jackson is the key to this one with some ball skills.
Yeah, but not only his ball skills, he doesn't mind getting in there and rucking it up like a forward as well, and he'll try and catch the Kiwis unawares. The Kiwis will expect that the Australian forwards have done their job and wait for it to come out to the backs. Jackson will just fly through. That's the thing that they've got to watch out for. He plays like a 7th forward.
Brent Todd letting Martin Bella know that he's around. The kick from the Australians straight down the throat of Boddicker. Stepping! High tackle from Gillespie. This is a dangerous one. Now McCracken hammers Daly as he joins in. They said there was going to be feeling in this one. So much at stake. The Australians with their world champs tag on the line. New Zealand with growing confidence. Now Gillespie's tackle was high. No doubt about it. Just watch this. Back he comes. Bang around the throat. Holsworth will say no more of this or you won't be out here.
Yeah, there's a lot of pointing going on from players on both sides.
That's what I was saying about so much at stake. The 4X trophy, they mean business.
Yeah, but they've got to put that sort of thing behind them. I think that if it gets into too much vigorous play or too much of this type of stuff, and New Zealand tries to respond back with interest, only New Zealand can lose. I just think they've got to try and ignore that sort of thing. Get on playing the game they know best.
45 metres out from the Australian line. New Zealand with their first chance down there. Calodo to play it. Wayne Mann up the middle. Finished off by Geyer. He got a bit of a rabbit killer and then he was held down. So Boddicker might get a chance at goal.
I've just got a gut feeling at the moment, Graham. I don't know if I'm imagining it, but for some reason the Kiwis seem to be keeping it a little tighter than they did in the first test. And, I don't think that's the wise thing for them to do. They've just been going from one side of the ruck to the other, rather than trying to get good field position on one side, as they were doing before.
40 metres out, and Boddicker says no to a chance at goal.
Well, I think he might have a crook leg, mate.
So maybe those injury concerns about Boddicker means that a chance at 2 can't be taken from 40 metres out.
Mind you, they might think they can get a try. Just wait and see.
Well, they're playing with the confidence to do it right here. Nickow, upended by Steve Walters. Put down again, the ball comes free. Watson on the inside, Kevin Iro gets a pass away to Peter Brown. Again, that willingness from New Zealand to keep it alive. Freeman kicking, but that's straight to Eddinghausen off his legs. Holsworth has been asked to make a number of penalties early in this match to keep these sides apart. Salvatore. Bella gets it to the 22.
Graham, they're being allowed too much to run from that first play out.
Now Langer on the inside. Gillespie was standing flat, not expecting it, but he makes a good gain. Last tackle, Jackson. A good roll on for Australia. The way their forwards got the space there for Jackson to pick his mark. Boddicker. He will have a big trouble to try and get away there. Freeman now. Iro. Again he gets away from Meninga. He's clear. Back on the inside, Lonergan put down by Jackson. So twice now, at a first attempt. Iro has got away from Meninga.
2 up for the young bull.
Todd, the ball knocked down by Australia. 6 more. Here's a chance. Some numbers. Watson can't get it out. Now he can. The dummy from Bodica. It is still a new tackle count for New Zealand. Brown standing, looking for another runner. Todd, the play just slows for a moment.
Graham, they definitely look better moving them from one side of the field to the other, don't they?
They do when they get wide to this great back line. Watson up the middle. Stepping out of tackles once more is Iro. A real handful. New Zealand coming back into their own with a bit of possession. Nickau, the ball well and truly forward. Now, they were starting to look dangerous and starting to stand and get some supports away with good passes, but this one was forward well and truly from Nickau. It was grabbed by the jumper by Wishart, but it was swinging arm McCracken. He has certainly let them know that he's out there tonight too. Wishart coming off that wing, bouncing out of one. A strong run from Wishart. Taken from behind by McCracken. New Zealand will have to regroup quickly. Quick hands from Bradley Clyde to Daly. Recalled to this Australian team, he has played little football in recent weeks. Penalty to Australia. The disappointment for Bob Bailey. And maybe another chance now. Markers, especially McCracken, knocked directly in front of Daly.
Yeah, Graham, New Zealand's going okay, really. All it's letting them down is that in defence, they're not chasing properly out of that first marker. Australia's getting the roll on all the time because the Kiwis are just jumping to one side and the Australians are running the other. They must stand off the tackle player and look to where the ball's going. The first marker's got to chase. As soon as they get that, they'll get back on track.
Wishart had made that great run. Salvatore, the Kiwis stand back. They didn't move up. It was too easy for him to get past the play the ball. The ball was nearly stolen by Colodo. Now Australia up the middle. Only metres away, Bradley Clyde. Rollers out to Gaia. Gaia still looking to clear the ruck. Good defence from New Zealand. But it's a big Australian back line. Jackson. To the inside, Eddinghausen. Slicing through. Again, they're only a metre away. Last tackle. New Zealand scrambling. Can they hang on? Gaia. Gaia still looking to unload. Watson's got it. Great recovery from New Zealand. Great character to get out of that.
Certainly was, Graham.
Great character. Now Bodica. Well, Huey McGann, they have had to dig very deep on a couple of occasions. That was remarkable scrambling play.
It's exactly what New Zealand needed. They had to scramble in that situation. Australia have just thrown everything at them for the last 12 tackles. New Zealand have held together and close, but still they need to do a lot more work before anything comes of age.
Huey, I've just got the feeling that the Australians are looking a lot more dangerous than they were in Melbourne.
They are. They've taken the game to New Zealand, whereas in Melbourne they waited for the game to come to them. That's something that Australia have been in positive, taking the ball forward, and they're coming up trump so far, making plenty of breaks.
Eddinghausen now. The Australians will be looking for some more breaks here as they have a tackle already inside New Zealand territory. Jackson forced to the inside, but he gets away from Watson. Watson comes again. The key men that were mentioned all week long are starting to penetrate. Jackson for Australia. Iro for New Zealand. Now Meninga. Meninga goes to the outside to Willie Kahn. He can't improve the situation for the Australians. Langer. Gaia with a chance to Gillespie. He will have support on the inside from Jackson. Jackson floats it over the top, handballed by Daly to Wishart. Wishart back on the outside. Gillespie. Now Daly, remarkable play. Great attack, great defence to hang on. New Zealand backs to the wall again. Langer stepping. Geyer reaches out. The Sydney Stadium erupts here. They were asked to hang on for just one too many sets of 6 tackles. All the pressure has been with the Australians. On the Cadbury-Morrow replay, the play that led up to this was superb, and then they kept it alive again. Too many tackles have to be made. Jason Williams fell for the dummy. He didn't stay on Geyer, and he stretched out for a try in his first test.
It was great work by New Zealand initially to hang on, but little Alfie Langer, he's the one that sparked that off. And Mark Geyer, a lot's been said of the aggression and the defence that he shows, but in my opinion, the danger to him is the attack that he just showed up then. He is a dangerous player with the ball. He's got flair, he's got step, he's got good ball skills, and he's just showed how capable he is and dangerous in scoring those tries.
A powerful back rower. Excites him no end, the try.
Huey, can you hear plenty of talk down there from our blokes? Is there plenty of talk around that mark area? Because it does appear to me that we're left wanting.
There's not a great deal of talk going on out there, Graham. There's very little talk in defence whatsoever. From the mark area, what they're doing, they've got a preset in their mind that the first marker is just chasing the first receiver until they wait. They should wait there and wait till the ball is actually gone.
Now Meninga. Meninga makes it 2 for 2 for him, and the Australians go to 8-0. The Cadbury-Morrow Ultimate Test, live and exclusive on TV3, and the Australians, as they did in Melbourne, with a good start.
Yeah, well, I was hoping the talk between Hugh and I would put Mel off then, but obviously it didn't. He couldn't. You'll have to talk louder down there, Hugh.
I'll try that.
Now Eddinghausen. Bradley Clyde. He gets right through. New Zealand looking as though they need some more possession.
They need field position, Graham. That's what they need.
More penalties. Freeman is ropeable because they're letting it slip. They're not giving themselves too much of a chance here to settle down. Jackson to put them in trouble once more, just outside their own 22. Steve Walters with the restart to Langer. Wishart. This time they don't let him escape. Salvatore. It's been an impressive performance from the Australian pack. Geyer loses it, and New Zealand have it.
Australia spent 5 days practicing those raids in the New Zealand tour, in the New Zealand's 22-metre area, and you'll find every time they get down there, Graham, they're not really trying to spin the ball out straight away. They're just working on set plays, and that is putting a lot of pressure on New Zealand because they haven't been chasing out of that first mark area.
Now, Lonergan plays it back. Brown and Holsworth finds the Australians inside the 5 out wide amongst the back line.
I thought Holsworth had forgotten that side was there.
Plenty of support here for the New Zealanders. Crowd probably around 38,000 maybe. The Australians down to 12 at the moment. Geyer is receiving attention in back play. Lonergan. In such a tough encounter, the New Zealanders need, as Geyer is a little bit dizzy on his feet, the New Zealanders need to ensure they're the next scorers. Once more, the Australians penalised.
Kiwis are just allowing themselves into a little bit of a lull at the moment. It's important that they get down the other end quickly or stay in this half as long as they can and put some consistent pressure on, because they are allowing this game to just slip away from them just a little bit.
Geyer still not quite so sure of himself, and Bodica, who said no to one from 40 metres out, will now have a crack from around 35. Still Geyer with some problems. Now, Geyer was looking to unload, and Todd comes over the top. And Brent Todd made sure that Mark Geyer was not going to improve there.
Yeah, well, it was a good, strong tackle by Brent, wasn't it?
I thought you might say that. Bodica, with half of Sydney seemingly trying to put him off. He just shaves the posts. Eddinghausen gets it to 10 metres out from the line. This is where they need to put the pressure on. Australia can't afford to make a mistake at this end. Salvatore.
Australia aren't running quite as close to the ruck as they were in the first game, and this is making it a little bit more difficult for the first up New Zealand defence. Whereas they were running 1 or 2 metres off the play the ball area, this time they're running that little bit wider.
And wide for Geyer. Stretching right out, Meninga inside. He went outside to Willie Kahn. Now Blackmore toes it ahead. Advantage for Australia, knock on from Salvatore. So from a near thing, if Geyer had have looked inside, he had a clear Meninga. He would have taken some stopping, but he decided to go to the outside.
Yes,
now, Meninga positions himself beautifully. That shot doesn't quite show it, but Meninga would have at least travelled into the 22.
Yeah, that's right. It was a lucky break for New Zealand.
Watson. Bodica gets it to McCracken. Jason Williams. From memory, I think his first touch of the ball. And amazingly, there's a knock-on the end of it.
Settle down, fellas. That's what you've got to do. Settle down and get back to doing what you do best. Play to one side of the field, then open it up back to the other side.
So often in these situations, you see a little hand in there. We didn't see whether that told the story or not. Now Peter Jackson has king hit a New Zealander. From behind, he may go. There was a high tackle. Everybody's on their feet here. An ugly situation. One New Zealander was felled with a big king hit. No one can condone any active play like that. Somebody might be out of here. Now, Holsworth has made sure that he wants Jackson over. He's off, I told you. You can't do it. You cannot do that and expect to get away with it. I must agree with referee John Holsworth. Peter Jackson knows that he should have thought about it.
Yes, he's a sorry man walking back there, but what else is he going to do? What else is referee going to do? I don't think he's finished yet. These
guys have been told, most of these players have enjoyed Winfield Cup experience in Australia, and you've got to understand that sort of thing has been outlawed for a long time. There was a high tackle here for sure going against Dave Watson, but there was already one against David Gillespie. Now, Watson might join him, I don't know. Now, McCracken has gone from the field. Is that in the bin? I wasn't sure. Or is he off? Now, Huey, we were looking at replays. Is McCracken off as well?
Jared has been sent from the field. Referee has taken it out on both teams. He's certainly trying to stamp his mark on the game. Jared McCracken has also gone for the rest of the period.
Now, McCracken is standing there. Now, what occurs here? Well, there's the king hit. Now, for the life of me, I can't understand how McCracken would be sent off for that.
No.
He was attacked after one player was king hit.
The player that I thought was in danger from New Zealand of going off or at least getting a Sinbin penalty was Jason Williams, the player who started the whole thing.
Now this game may easily open up here. Both defences down to 12.
Well, Gary Freeman has got to get hold of the Kiwis and settle them down. Gary did a great job at doing that in the first test. It's very important he does it now. Also, Bob's got to get the messages out. Settle down, fellas.
Whoever has the ball here has a masterful advantage. Bradley Clyde. Falling off tacklers. Clyde under the post. Dreadful defence. But this is what the situation will be. Whoever has the ball is in control. An explosive second test in Sydney. A controversial one, but Australia to a flying start. Alan Langer again with a switch of play. Then cut out passes out wide, putting men away. Meninga to the outside of Watson. Charging onto it is Bradley Clyde. This big back rower firstly looks out wide, has the defence on the wrong foot when he straightens up. There's nobody home up the middle. Lonergan misses, Nickow misses, and Bodica can't put him down, and he is headed on the Cadbury-Morrow replay right under the black dot.
Well, once again, Langer causing the hassles there, but, you know, there's no excuse for the New Zealand defence here. It was bad. Jason Williams stood out with his man, and everyone else was just wrong-footed. There was no positive defence in there at all. The New Zealand fellas are going to have to get their acts together in a hurry, because this game it's already a long way from over. But any more play like that, and I think it could slip from their hands, especially if Mel slots this one, which he's sure to do.
Meninga from right in front. This stadium has been abuzz since the kickoff. A fiery test match. New Zealand with little ball. He will hear the roar down the tunnel, Jared McCracken, as he sits alone, thinking about a test that he will play no more part. Desperate look for Jared McCracken, who I feel is unlucky to be off the field.
He is, Graham, but he's off, and that's all that counts. And we've got to get on with the 12 players that are there. I think that
it's 14-0. Sorry, Graham.
Yeah, I know. But forget the score at the moment. There's plenty of time to go. Australia's probably got a little bit of an advantage at this stage, because they are all Winfield Cup players, and they do know how to respond to pressure. They, after that hiccup just a little while ago, might settle down just that little bit quicker than New Zealand. So Gary Freeman has got to get hold of his blokes by the scruff of the neck and say, settle down, get back into this bloody game, and put what happened behind us. Cut out that sort of thing, for heaven's sake.
Well, they are digging their own grave here at the Sydney Football Stadium. Too many penalties. Bella now. A swinging arm from Todd. The get squares have got to stop.
Huey, as I said before, is there any talk down there, mate? Can you hear the Kiwis?
No, it's very, very quiet, Graham. I think they're all in shock of what's happened in the last 2 or 3 minutes, and especially that try, and it was evident in the way that they all fell off those tackles.
Yeah.
Bella comes up with some more possession. Salvatore. The Australians enjoying the territory. A big advantage. Langer to Bella. Back to Langer. He's got to hang on. No more scores from the Australians. Penalty against New Zealand. I think against Dwayne Mann. I'm not quite sure of referee Holsworth's ruling here. Langer plays the ball. Now, Mann is in the marker area. Well, I thought he was entitled to make a tackle from there, even though he was on hands and knees pushing Langer out of the way.
Well, if he wasn't allowed to tackle like that, Langer wasn't allowed to play the ball like that. So
quite right. A big roll on for the green and gold. "12 metres outside of the New Zealand line, heading it towards the posts. Geyer.
That's one of those practice moves they've been doing all week, mate, and they're working well for them.
Steve Walters, inches away. Gillespie It nearly opened up. He turns around and he gets pushed back.
Good defence.
Last tackle. Goya. Out wide for Khan. Blackmore's got it. He's away. Bella came with a very high attempted tackle. And then an elbow from Goya now. I think one of these tackles might have been entitled to be a bit lower.
Well, I think John Holdsworth's got to have a little bit of a look at what both sides are doing here, because Australia's applying a few tactics that certainly should come under his scrutiny a little bit more than what they're doing. New Zealand forwards are going to get very, very tired the way the Australians are playing, because they are running them around. It's important, as soon as the Kiwis get the ball, they do the same back. Run them around and get these big Aussies just as tired.
We're just outside the last 5 before half-time. I can't remember New Zealand really having to stretch the Aussies at the other end.
Well, that's the problem. They haven't been down that end of the field, and when they have got it, they're playing down the middle of the field instead of using that stretch to one side of the field and back to the other. They haven't really been applying that.
Now Walters. Meninga did well to keep that one alive. Getting late on the count once more. The number of times New Zealand have been asked to hang on. Langer up the middle. Try time. Laurie Daly gets in the queue and he goes under the black dot. It is difficult to play any game of rugby league without the ball, even more so if you are going to continue to give away penalties. The Australians running riot here. The Cadbury-Morrow replay. Langer, who has had a hand in all the tries. The dummy, he takes out Bodica, draws him beautifully, and Daly backing up. He gets back to Test football with a try.
Well, you know, as you can see here, Langer's the danger man, but our fellas are just dropping off tackles, and there's no excuse for that. The thing that worries me about what's happening most of all at the moment is there's too many of the Kiwis with their heads down. When they're walking back to the line after this particular try, I'm not sure if we'll catch them in this shot, but heads are hung down. And I think that some words have got to be said from somebody to get everyone back up on their toes again. It's a big task to come back from here. It might be too big a task, but at least we've got to get back and apply some pressure. These tries under the post like this.
It will have to be the greatest comeback of all time as Meninga gets a give-me here from in front. He only takes it back to 11 metres from the goal line. He puts it down the middle. And the Australians, with that remarkable scoreline, 20-0.
Graham, there's far too much mist-tackling going on by our forwards here. And, you know, it's noticeable in a lot of the shots close to the line. Little Gary Freeman's right in the middle of where all the tackling's going on instead of the forwards being tied in there. I think some changes might have to be made, mate. Get some fresh players on.
It's going to be hard when there's always 12 men out there tackling, but New Zealand just keep on trying to hang on.
Well, they're burying themselves at the moment, and they're doing it through their own errors. Australia's not really having to do much. New Zealand's doing it for them.
They need the ball, New Zealand. Bella will play it, though. Clyde. A back rower who can run as quick as most of the centres. "40 metres out from their own line. Daly with the kick. Bodica will chase this, and New Zealand, at long last, gets 6 tackles with the ball.
At the wrong end of the field.
Unfortunately for them, but the overall possession tells an interesting tale. Australia have had it for 55, New Zealand 39. In the opposition half, Australia 30 against New Zealand's 22. But that 22 tackles for New Zealand was all around the first 10 or 15 minutes of play. Since then, it's been a rush of green and gold. Koloto. Inside the last 2 minutes before the break. They need to try to give themselves a look in. Lonergan gets it away to Watson. Hammered by Gillespie. Now he's finished off by Wishart. He loses it. So Australia will have a chance with a scrum just before half-time.
Very good defence by Australia. You know, you can't take anything away from them. they are playing the controlled professional game, and unfortunately we're not. Look at that, there's plenty of drive in those tackles, and there's what's more, there's plenty of support in the tackles. That's very heartbreaking stuff for our fellas.
Daly to Meninga, who knocks on. Watson has it. Colodo, quick hands. Boddicker. Kevin Iro, grabbed by Langer. Trying to keep it alive, New Zealand. Brown, looking back inside for Freeman. He thought better of it. Todd, up the middle for one play to settle things down. 40 seconds from half-time. Is it enough time? Lonergan says it might be for Blackmore. Blackmore carries a couple of defenders. Great strength. Watson for Brown. Back for Watson. A little bit of a gap. But Mann throws it away to Geyer. Geyer's getting clear. Big first 40 minutes for the Australian forwards. Daly. Change of pace. But he's well taken by Kevin Iro. Clyde hitting the deck. Now bouncing back. Finished off on halfway. A remarkable first 40 minutes. It is 20-0 to the Australians. There's a standing ovation here awaiting them as they leave the field. There's been a ton of fire. Plenty of courage from both sides. We have had Peter Jackson from Australia and Jared McCracken from New Zealand sent from the field. We started with 26. We're down to 24, but New Zealand well behind on the score.
Got to get up quickly up their defensive line and force Australia into errors. It's something they didn't do in that.
So that we can get on with some rugby league. Graham Lowe, what would you have said at half-time?
Well, I think, you know, you try and keep calm at half-time, but there are times when the truth needs to be told, and a few of these fellas needed to be told the truth at half-time. I think they've been, you know, as much as I don't like to say it, I think they've been thinking that they're already world champions and they need their tail kicked. Clayton Friend's on there now. I'm just trying to work out who he's replaced, but I think that's a good move from Bob, because it's attack they need as much as defence now, and Clayton's the sort of guy that can spring a little bit of a surprise, and they've just got to throw everything at Australia they can, attack, but hopefully balance that with the kicks in the tail I would have had from Bob as well.
Now there's no Colodo out there, Loe, so it will be interesting as he sits sideline to see where Friend possessions himself in this lineup. He goes to half. Freeman to 5'8".
I think that's a good move by Bob, because Colodo, once the 12 men were on the field, Colodo was feeling the pinch a little bit, and I think it's a good attacking move.
Boddicker nearly getting away down the sideline. Lonergan from a long way back takes on the Australian forwards. They need an early try, something to set them alight and back into this test match. Nickow stepping. Right in midfield inside the 22. They can go left or right. They stay right with Peter Brown. Clayton Friend across the ruck, dummying to Lonergan, turning his back over the shoulder of Boddicker. Tidied up by Kevin Iro. He's finished off by Geyer. Lonergan looking for some more work. The handover, so good spoiling defence from the Australians.
Yeah, but it was dumb play by our fellas. It was a risky pass by Clayton, but I think it needed to be done. But it should have certainly been backed up by a kick on the last tackle. They've got to keep their minds on the job.
Steve Walters. Langer dummying, they let him stand.
New Zealand are playing with the one marker now, and while that's okay because there's only 12 players out there, they've still got to be careful around that play the ball area.
Geyer will play it just inside New Zealand territory for Daly, and some numbers here. Meninga Meninga to the outside of Nikau. Meninga gets clear. Meninga still going. Great run from the Australian captain. 8 metres out. And another big backline set out wide. The ball bounces well for Salvatore. Now Gaia, that was the line ball to Wishart, but he will score. I'm not sure if the ball to Wishart was right or not, but he's injured as he scores, and the Australians grab another 4. Some attention for Wishart. The Australian supporters have had to wait 3.5 minutes from the break for the scoreline to improve. Wishart to his feet. Now this ball here from Gaia, I think it was okay.
Yeah, you've got to let that go.
And Wishart ankle tap, but not finished off. He stretched out right on the line.
That was a terrible start for New Zealand because, you know, the tackling that they're missing is just not acceptable. They've, like Frano missed that tackle then, but that's not why the try was scored. The try was scored because the tackles were missed over on the other side of the field to start with.
The Australians who have continued to spread it. And I think if you're going to say anything about this test, they are doing to New Zealand what New Zealand did to the Aussies down in Melbourne, keeping this ball out wide and alive.
And vice versa, mate. Like, the Kiwis are playing right into Australia's hand. The Kiwis are full of monsters. Look, young...
Alan Langer shedding a little bit of blood for his country.
Yeah, well, and there's Bob shedding a few tears for his mate on it. But
that might be the case at the moment.
Yeah, but, you know, the Kiwis are playing right into Australia's hands because, like, they're playing dumb football. They're playing down the middle of the field. They're not stretching us. They're not taking Australia to one side and then passing it to the other. And again, they're not complementing the right style of play with any good sort of defence.
Rod Wishart looking a little bit like somebody on the wrong end of a Mike Tyson right cross.
Oh, he'll duck next time.
And Langer is concerned with maybe a broken nose. Meninga finally misses one. But the Australians in this Cadbury-Morrow Ultimate Test, test number 2, it's 24-0. A beautiful clear night in Sydney, but it's a little bit chilly. Really crisp and cold for New Zealand.
Yeah, well, you don't seem to be too cold there, mate.
Clayton Friend trying something different. Good quick thinking, and they come up with it. Bodica to Watson. Blackmore. I can't remember the last time when New Zealand were in the Australian 22. Clayton Friend gets it to Watson. Watson completely smothered up the middle. The question has been put to the Australians, and they have really bounced back strongly. Clayton Friend going. He tried to get it to Freeman. Freeman was unmarked. He would have scored under the post.
Yeah, unfortunately, Graham, little Clayton Friend and Gary Freeman, they're the smallest 2 players on the park just about, but they are the only 2 really that even look like igniting New Zealand at the moment. The other players are just going through the motions. It's going to be up to our little men, unfortunately.
Well, Chris Johnson's got out there for Australia on the wing. Huey McGann, what's the injury toll down their sideline?
Well, I've just found out that Alan Langer has broken his nose but has elected to stay on. Rod Wishart must have copped something in that tackle that he scored when he scored the try, because his eyes just closed over completely. I don't think it was anything malicious. I think just Dean Lonergan coming in over the top.
So the Australians can afford to make some changes. It might be New Zealand who might make some more shortly. The fear might be, with something like that for Wishart, that it could be a fractured cheekbone. That will have to be checked. Now, Clayton Friend again. He's got Kevin Iro marked outside. He goes inside to Jason Williams. Now, Chris Johns will be penalised for interfering with Kevin Iro, who was trying to support Clayton Friend. A quick restart by Watson. The Australians don't look to be back 10. Holsworth plays the advantage, but there's none there. Now, in that incident, no matter what side it is, if the advantage was played because the Australians didn't retreat, they should be a penalty now.
They should, mate. You know, like there's been a couple of questionable things here, and I'm sure John Holdsworth has dished out a few things that have been very, very unkind to New Zealand, and maybe his holiday here was too long.
The Australian fans don't think so.
Oh, well, they wouldn't, would they?
Now Gillespie.
Kevin Iro's been brought into this game. He's a big, strong, strapping young centre. And Graham, how many times have you called his name? How many times has he been given the ball on the fly?
Alan Langer away again. Eddinghausen on his outside. They mess it up. Now Langer picked it up again. But I feel that he was in an offside position from that. He's unloaded to players behind him. He's never retreated behind him because they can't put him onside. Now he stays in front of Eddinghausen. Was it touched by a New Zealander at last attempt, or was it Eddinghausen puts it down? Yes, it was touched by New Zealand. Blackmore standing. The few opportunities he's had, he's shown his ability again. The overall possession was quite remarkable. The Australians with 78. New Zealand with 55. Now they go Iro flicking it back for Jason Williams. Off the carpet for Botica. Botica stepping but going nowhere, upended by Gillespie. Freeman. Back to Botica. It's Watson, I should say, who positioned himself better to get it over the head of Eddinghausen. Eddinghausen beats one, beats two, beats three. He glides into full speed. Eddinghausen from his own line. He starts to get the staggers, but a run that will put the Kiwis on the rack. Langer. Back to Walters. On the 1990 tour of Great Britain, there was a big upset in the first test at Wembley. The Kangaroos bounced back to grab that title of world champions, and under pressure they are surging back again here in Sydney.
They're doing it in style as well, mate. You've got to take your hats off to them. They're a great rugby league nation, and they're giving the Kiwis a lesson here, and unfortunately the Kiwis don't appear to have learned anything from the first half. That's the worrying factor.
Langer to Guy. One more tackle for New Zealand to hold them out. Botica positions himself well.
These are the areas they're going to have to attack from immediately. Just get the ball out wide, just attack immediately. They're just wasting their time throwing away tackles just one after another down in this 10-metre area. Those sort of rucks are good and strong in club football, and they serve a purpose sometimes in club football. They're not serving any purpose here. It's attack, and it's attack quickly.
The ball back to Lonergan was forward. You've got to keep trying things, though.
Yeah, but you know, inside passes aren't on when you're playing a game like this. You've got to try and beat the man on the outside the whole time. Peter Brown is a good ball player, but he should have taken the outside option. Jason Williams was in a hole on the outside.
So George Mann gets out there in 15, and Peter Brown leaves the field. Daly at 5'8". Meninga and the Australians keen for more tries. Gillespie. Langer to Daly. Poor defence, and Daly will crash over. The fans here in Sydney will be wondering just what happened in Melbourne.
never mind the fans in Sydney, the fans in New Zealand will be wondering what's happened, because this is a different side altogether. There's just not that commitment in defence, unfortunately. You know, those missed tackles there, they're just inexcusable.
The Cadbury Mora replay showed a number of missed tackles on Daly, and Huey, they've let it slip badly.
But that was a hallmark of New Zealand in the first test, was their defence, and it's really let them down here tonight, and it is unfortunate, but maybe this is what will bring them back down to earth and you know, just kick on in the third test. Daly there just brushing off tackles at will and able to go over in the corner.
Laurie Daly, one of the best talents in the world of rugby league. Play him anywhere in the back line, or probably play him anywhere in the forwards for that matter. He's big enough.
Oh, he's a great player, mate. And the thing is that, look, those New Zealand players there, they're under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on Gary now and what he's got to say, but they're letting Daly run right.
Meninga to line it up from the sideline. I'll get you to comment in a minute. I've got the feeling that they started out in Melbourne about 5'11" tall. They got a great reception back home. Probably went home 7 foot 1,000. Maybe they haven't come back to earth. But here's Meninga from the sideline. Just a couple of steps, but he puts it wide. And the Australians celebrating with the Rod Wishart grandstand. And it is 28 points to 0. Quite amazing. Do you think they really have come back to earth, Lowy?
Yeah, well, you know, it was a big occasion for them after that first test, and they've certainly been idolised back in New Zealand, because it was you know, that was a magnificent performance in the down at Olympic Park there. But don't worry, there's plenty of pride in all New Zealanders. I'm telling you that. They're getting a shellacking here, good and proper. They are getting a shellacking. There's no good trying to hide it. They're getting a shellacking, but there's plenty of pride in them. If they don't come back in this next 20-odd minutes here, they're certainly going to come back at Lang Park. But I think that they can post tries on the board. I'll be happy at this stage of the game as long as Australia doesn't get as wide a margin against us as we had against them down in Melbourne.
Now it's Bella. Naturally, the Australians so confident. And Walters now up the middle. Again, it's a little like touch football. Salvatore keeps it alive for Daly to Bella. Bella basketballs it back for Eddinghausen. Who wants it? The dummy to Langer. Eddinghausen kicks ahead for Chris Johns, bouncing in no man's land. Gillespie set sail. It is Australia's night here in Sydney. The bounce of the ball really tells that.
It did tell that, Graham. That was a bounce of the ball. But
we are told, really, that the series is going to be evened up in no uncertain fashion. Smiles all round for the Australians' disappointment. For the New Zealand fans here, Eddinghausen was running out of room. He looked ahead. I think he was kicking for Johns.
Would have been better if Gillespie had been onside, because he was offside with that kick.
So Gillespie caught out there on the replay by about 5 metres, and John Holsworth, the referee, goes to sleep.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, he's joined by 12 others at the same time, wearing black and white.
The Cadbury Moro replay has been telling this sorry tale here as the ball was kept alive. Cameraman got lost for a second. Who had it? Bella got it back. Then Eddinghausen got involved trying to pick up the dregs. When he kicked ahead, out and shot as Gillespie, who got a 5-metre head start on everybody and said this is how second rowers take shortcuts.
Yeah. You have to, you know, is that a mask you're wearing now, or is that just a permanent smile, mate?
Well, I thought I did well to handle the punishment in Melbourne. I was looking forward to some more of that Kiwi magic out wide, but when McCracken was sent off, I couldn't agree with that. Meninga drills it for another one. And since it's been down to 12 against 12, the game has just opened up too much in favour of Australia. stretching the scoreline again. It is 34 points to 0, Australia over New Zealand. I'm still trying to scratch myself, though, trying to pinch myself to say it's happening with such a scoreline after what I saw in Melbourne.
Yeah, the thing that's very disappointing is just the defence. You know, the missing of the first up tackles. That is a good example. That's another example. That's another example. It's just beyond me why it's happening now.
Well, the biggest winning margin against New Zealand was the 31-point split, 38-7 in the second test in Brisbane, 1978. So it's been betted here in Sydney.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate. Get ready to call a New Zealand try, because Clayton Friend and Gary Freeman out there, they are two players that can still provide us an opportunity, and I guarantee over the next 15 minutes they will, mate.
I can't remember calling them with the ball too much. It's all Australia. Bob Bailey looks absolutely stunned. Now Bonica. Stepping, ducking. Trying for something positive, but he gets hammered by Guile. Now, Iro has decided to go looking for the pill. Back it comes for George Mann. They've had to do so much tackling. Now they've got to try and get themselves set for something in attack. Watson takes it to the line. Gets it back. Clayton Friend cutting men out. Going to Iro. A one-hander for Jason Williams. He travels backwards to try and get started. 40 metres out from the Australian line. Freeman to Watson. To George Mann. To Blackmore. Blackmore taken by Willie Kahn. The Australians now coming up with the answers in defence as well. Midfield bomb easy for Ettinghausen. Now, he has got somebody in the New Zealand line for not being back 10. Might be interesting, the kick was put up by Freeman. But did he put them all on side before the ball was taken or played at by Ettinghausen? Meninga.
He's done a great job for Australia tonight, Graham. He was called on tonight, and he has done a great job. So has this fella here. Martin Bella's been probably the most criticised forward in Australia, but he has really taken it to New Zealand, and he along with Mark Guy are probably the two best forwards on the field. It's been a very difficult night for Brent Todd. I think Brent Todd's worked his
great ball from Guy to Daly.
Yeah, Brent's worked his heart out, mate, but the occasion's too big for us tonight.
This is one man you were talking about on Mobile Sport over the last couple of weeks that must be in the Australian side, Guy.
Yeah, well, everybody's gone on about his aggressive defence, but to me the most impression that he could make on this game tonight was the impression that he could make on attack. He's a very, very skillful player in attack. He's an uncompromising defender, but he's a great player in attack, and he's shown that tonight. He's caused many problems for the Kiwis.
There have been 15 penalties overall, and the faces on the New Zealand bench tell them that they're on the wrong end of that one as well. 9-6 to the Australians. Watson, 42 metres out. Nicow. Nicow to Clayton Friend. He has injected some life into the side when they have had possession. As little as they have. Now Todd. To Freeman. Watson. To Nicow, he can't handle it. In Melbourne, it was mistake-free, the New Zealand performance. But the mistakes have been peppered through this effort tonight, right from the opening whistle.
Unfortunately, Graham, the further they've got behind, they've just insisted on playing back to the centre of the field all the time, and it just hasn't worked for New Zealand. It's played right into Australia's hands.
Chris Johns busting them up the middle. Daly. Another advantage for Clyde. He crashes straight through Bodica, but he can't control the pass to Eddinghausen, and Jason Williams gets over in cover. Well, Huey, I must ask you, it's hard to get a handle on the feeling of this match after the scoreline in Melbourne and this amazing scoreline here tonight. Come back to Huey. Friend. Iro getting it out to Watson. Watson breaks 2 tackles, then gets it back to Freeman. Freeman ducks one. He comes to a full stop at the hands of Alan Langer. Huey, we were talking about the scorelines. I can't get over the situation here with the embarrassment, I guess, if you like, at the present time here in Sydney. What's your feeling as you look ahead to the third?
Well, a feeling of anticipation, I think, Graham. It certainly is a slight embarrassment as far as New Zealand is concerned, along the same lines as it was for Australia in that first test. But you know, everyone's back down to earth now. It's set the scene for the third test. It'll be a big one for sure by both teams. But certainly we just hope this for New Zealand that the scoreline doesn't become any larger.
Now Bella, the Australians still have 16 minutes left in this test match. Gillespie easily allowed to get it to Daly. Ankle tap by Nicow as he had his eyes on the goalposts. Meninga to Willie Kahn. He gets the try on debut. This crowd is screaming for more here in Sydney. The scoreline getting away to some rather large proportions. Willie Kahn on the end of another raid on the Cadbury Morrow replay. Just keep your eyes on Meninga. He might have even stretched them, the defence himself, towards the line, but finding unmarked is Willie Kahn.
Mel Meninga came into this game. He was challenged by 3 other younger players to the world's best centre, and look, he's just put his mark just once more on this game. He's still the best centre in the world. He's a great player, Mel, and he's played a great captain's knock tonight, and you know, he's given all New Zealanders who are watching this game a lesson on how the game should be played. The Kiwis, all the young players watching, they could learn plenty from this fella. He's a great ambassador to the game. The Kiwi supporters are still flying high there, you know. No one's hung their tails down. It's embarrassing for us, but I'll tell you what, Graham, we'll all cop it. We'll all cop it. Nobody can hide from what's happened. And I'll tell everyone now, get off Bob Bailey's back before we even start, because as a coach, I know what it's like. As soon as things go wrong, the coach cops it in the net. Bob Bailey's done a great job with this side. It's not their fault that they haven't performed tonight.
Meninga misses from out wide. But the Australians, though, get it now to 38 points to 0. A shutout at the moment. The lights are well and truly on for the Australians.
As I was saying, Graham, I want everyone to leave Bob alone, because this side's copped a hiding tonight. We're all embarrassed about it, as Huey said. But we've got to stick together and we've got to rectify it for the next game.
But I've got to put it to you, being an honorary Queenslander and all, and getting away with the State of Origin series, you know how much Lang Park will mean to the Australians. It is probably tougher to win at Lang Park than maybe here.
I'll have a chat to the Queenslanders up there, mate, and us Queenslanders will stick together for us Aussies. Well, for us Kiwis. Don't worry, mate.
You'll have a big problem trying to convert them.
Yeah, no, New Zealand does face a huge battle up there, but they'll come back, and I think they'll have a good look at what's happened tonight. I think possibly, you know, some of them may not have had a good enough look to what actually happened in the first game.
What I want to see is the Australian bench will all get a taste of this test match now. I want to see 13 on 13. Now, I know we're talking about an incredible scoreline, but when McCracken went off, that was it for New Zealand. Just before that passage, they had played fairly well with the ball. I still don't believe he should have been sent off. I've got no doubt that Jackson probably should have. Now, Williams. Penalty to New Zealand.
Well, looking back at that incident, I'm not quite sure, you know, what happened when that blue started, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if possibly no one deserved to get sent off. I'm not sure whether it was a punch or a push that Jackson put on, but certainly the ref cracked that, that's for sure.
Gary Mercer getting stripped to join the action. As there are stories that maybe Jackson hit him with an open hand, Dave Watson, so it will all come out in the wash in the judiciary now.
Yeah, but the referee hasn't cost New Zealand this game. We've put it on ourselves, unfortunately, and when that happens, you've got to wear it.
Now, Friend. Another penalty to New Zealand. Dwayne Mann trying to get on with things quickly. Freeman to Nicow, beautiful step. That ball was coming back for Freeman. It had to be knocked down by Australia because he was under the post. But the Australians got a hand in there. And now a couple of changes hit the scene. Ian Roberts goes out there in 17. And Martin Bella for Australia gets a hero's welcome back to the sideline.
He's done a great job, Martin. As I said, there's been a lot of pressure on him, but he has done a great job. But it's not a bad player to make a swap with, is it?
Also, Dean Lonergan leaves the scene as Gary Mercer gets out there. He'll have a touch shortly. Bella. Great job. But now Friend, 5 metres out. Ducking is Dwayne Mann to Nicow. Nicow takes on the line, stands to Freeman. Freeman dummying, tackled quickly and positively by Eddinghausen. The Australians determined to shut them out. Big defence from Geyer, but Mercer bounces out of it and starts again. Todd wrestled to the ground by Salvatore and Langer. Friend, he's been their most dangerous player. He was put off for just a step. There was a hand on him as he ran out to try and recover that kick. But there'll be a line drop out. Just keep your eye on Eddinghausen, who tries to put him off there for just a step. The Australians making some more changes. And 2 more heroes. A great back row performance from Geyer and Gillespie.
Oh, it's fantastic. They've shown the New Zealand forwards what it's all about tonight, and they deserve every bit of accolades they get. They both played outstanding.
Watson gets through. New Zealand coming up with some of their best play. Bella sitting on the sideline. Now, George Mann getting it out to Blackmore. He's put over the sideline. These pictures coming to you on 3 Sport back in New Zealand, courtesy of Channel 7 in Australia.
I've got to admire Graham, Australia's defence tonight, Graham. It's been outstanding. You know, it's very, very rarely even looked to be threatened. It's only really Clayton Friend and Gary Freeman that have been jinking around and really posing any sort of threat whatsoever.
Getting it away now. The Australians 10 metres out from their own line. Willie Kahn plays it back. Roberts. Well, the overall possession story here in this test match tells a bit of a lie. The Australians with 113 tackles, New Zealand 83. But then, as we take a look at it again, and then break that down further to the possession in the opposition half, that is a different story. 60 tackles for the Australians, 41 for New Zealand, but most of those starting to come now in this second half. For New Zealand, all too late. Roberts. So the story about panic in the Australian camp diminishes. 8 positional changes to a test team. It underlines the strength, the depth in this country over here, that they can virtually pick a second test team.
Yeah, well, they started with Team A, finished, tonight's Team B. If it hadn't worked tonight, it would have been Team C.
Well, I wonder if Jackson is suspended, and one would think that he probably will, maybe it's the last hurrah for Wally Lewis again at Lang Park.
Yeah, well, it'd be ironical, wouldn't it? And, Wally Lewis he always seems to come through on the right sort of moment, and it would be a perfect farewell to international football for him.
Do you think they will, or do you think they would shift Daly to 5'8"?
No, I think that, knowing the selectors, they'd probably put Daly to 5'8", but I don't think it'd be the wise move to make.
Alan Langer has been cutting them up in this second test. He deserves a try, flicks it over his head, knocked on by Australia. Holsworth calling for the play on to New Zealand. Now, Mercer brings it away strongly. Langer getting a double round here from Willie Kahn. He was heading for the corner. Boddicker did well to cut him off. Flicking over the head. In desperation, hoping for the right support. Willie Kahn couldn't get the bounce. Iro. 24 metres out from his own line. He looked impressive in the first 10, but then all hell broke loose. We had Peter Jackson sent off along with Jared McCracken, and that is when the game was busted wide open by the Australians. Eddinghausen with a pass that drifted forward. Holsworth said no. The Australians continue on 48 metres out from the New Zealand line. Johns busts them. Good covering tackle from Clayton Friend. Langer. Langer again. Hasler will score. Put it down to Alan Langer. A brilliant running game tonight at halfback. He's decided, with New Zealand down to 12, that he was going to make sure his stamp was on this game. Bob Bailey does not want to look over his shoulder at the scoreboard. Cadbury Morrow replay. Langer, you can't let him run. You've got to go in on this man. Dwayne Mann tried to hold Hasler back, but he broke clear. And the tries, a lot of them, have been right under the black dot.
Yeah, that's why, that's because they've been able to, they haven't been pressure type tries. They've just been bust straight through the middle at will with plenty of support. And when you have a guy coming on the field the calibre of Desi Hasler, there's only just over 4 minutes in the game. Desi Hasler is the type of player that could quite easily pick up another one.
And quite easily picking up another one should be Mal Meninga from in front, from ground level. He raises the flags. Australia, I can't believe it after the Melbourne Test. It is 42 points to nil. Yes, that's right, 42 points to nil. From a match that critics really felt was going to be an encounter to go either way.
Well, I was one of those, mate. It's taken me totally by surprise, as I'm sure it has everyone watching the game back in New Zealand. There's Brent Todd coming off there. Like he slogged his guts out tonight, Brent, and you've got to feel sorry for fellas when they do have to face up to a hiding like this. And everybody, that's why I believe everybody has to face up to it. We all have to take it on the shoulder. It's no good complaining about anything. We've got to take it on the shoulder, on our shoulders, and get ourselves set for the next game.
Now Chris Johns slowly to his feet. The Australians feeling that there was a forearm doing some damage in the tackle now.
Yeah, well, there was. Like, that's just ridiculous. That.
Well, Mike Patton's got out there. Now, this is where they've got to realise there's another test match to go. Yeah. Nobody else has got to get sent off here. That's the last thing that Bob Bailey wants.
I was speaking to Wally Lewis about a minute before the kick-off. Look, this is just ridiculous. That is ridiculous. New Zealand were very lucky that they didn't get penalised the play before that.
Well, that was the one that they were calling for on Johns, and McCracken's going to have to face the judiciary. He's one of the best. Jackson comes out, the man who was sent off in the first half, to congratulate Martin Bella for his performance.
As I was saying, I was speaking to Lewis about a minute or so before the kick-off, a couple of minutes before the kick-off, and he said to me, what did I think Australia had to do to beat New Zealand? And I said to him, if a stink happened, if a blue went on, it would work in Australia's favour, because I didn't think that New Zealand would have the experience of enough Winfield Cup players to overcome it, and I think it's just worked out that way.
Walters. Now, Daly getting it to Johns. They keep it alive. Steve Walters brushing aside some tackles. He gets it somehow out the back. George Mann has it. But there's a knock on against New Zealand. Minute and a half to go. Australia with a scrum right in midfield. They can attack either side. This is the perfect setup to attack from.
Yes, it's very dangerous, mate, and I dread to think what might happen. I'm just waiting for the hooter to go.
The crowd chanting for another try. Daly to Clyde. Clyde dragging defenders towards the line. The ball comes loose. Boddicker has it. Now, Jason Williams. The middle of the ruck. Plenty of defence there for Australia as Mercer is put down. Friend unloading. The crowd counting down the last 5 seconds. Clayton Friend. There could have been an ugly incident here at the finish. Now, Holsworth has charged in amongst the players. Peter Jackson, who was set off before, all dressed up with nowhere to go. But Holsworth has put a finish to it. Quickly trying to stop anything as Bob Bailey heads up the tunnel. A shattered man.
Clayton Friend only on for a half, but he picks up 2 points. And Richie Blackmore, 1 point in the UBEX Most Valuable Player Award.
Well, the Sydney Football Stadium a little deserted now with this shutout from Australia to New Zealand. Lowy, I guess we keep talking about Lang Park. You know the joint as well as anybody. Can they forget about this scoreline?
Well, I think the only scoreline New Zealand's got to worry about at the moment is that it's 1-1. You know, if they think too much about the scoreline tonight, those guys sitting around there dejected as they are, if they start thinking about too much about 44-0 or whatever it was, their history again before they've even started. The most important thing New Zealand's got to concentrate on is that it is 1-0. They took a shellacking tonight. There's no two ways about it. But next week's another week, and they've got to get back on track.
What about the start of this game? How badly did they handle it with the McCracken send-off?
Well, they handled it very badly. You know, they just showed that they were unable to respond to pressure, and that it just shows the enormous depth of Australian Rugby League. Like, it's all right New Zealand winning a test match, and even if they won 3 test matches, you still can't compare the depth that is available in the two countries, and that depth, a lot of it can handle pressure, and it's just unfortunate it was seen at its awesome best tonight.
The Australians made 8 positional changes for this Test match. What about changes to the New Zealand side for the third at Lang Park?
Yeah, well, I think they have to look long and hard at that, and as I mentioned during the call a couple of times, Kevin Iro is a world-class centre, but it's very, very difficult to think back and recall him getting the ball on the fly, like he had to keep going looking for it the whole time, and that to me was a major disappointment. I think you know, it's hard to go past the combination of McCracken and Iro out there, but the way it worked last time with McCracken and Watson, it was a very, very handy combination. This time they might be forced to leave McCracken out of the lineup.
Well, in Melbourne, the Kiwis, courtesy of the sponsor, were celebrating with plenty of Lion Red. A little bit skinny tonight, although you do owe me a beer.
I do, mate, and being a Kiwi, we'll take this on the chin and on the shoulder. You know, we didn't gloat last week. You know that. I didn't gloat over it, even though we thrashed you. We didn't gloat over it at all. And I'll expect you to be very, very humble tonight.
I'll even let you buy dinner.
Well, that's nothing unusual.